If you saw last year's series, chances are you caught our venison processing segment. This year we're going to show you how to field dress your deer and quarter it in the field with help from DNR staff. Check it out.
Well, good morning from the field. And you know, as a deer hunter, obviously your ultimate goal in going deer hunting, most of the time anyways, is to get a deer down. But once you get that deer on the ground, the responsibility of a hunter and to make sure that you have the absolute finest venison that you can get starts in the field, and it starts with gutting the animal. So in the field, what you need is a fairly short knife. You don't really want a big long knife, although I'm going to show you one exception to that. But a nice little, very sharp knife. Sharpness is important. The duller your knife, the more likely it is that you're going to hurt yourself with it. So nice, sharp, short little knife. And I used to always laugh at guys, you know, the manly thing in hunting is you didn't need gut gloves, you didn't need to stay clean. But you know what? Over the years, I started using gut gloves. And at the end of the process, they also have another really good function, which I'll show you when we're done. So if you want to keep your clothes nice and clean, these gut gloves are cheap. You can buy them in any sporting goods store, 50 cents to $1 a pair. So I recommend you get some. So we're going to tear into it here and show you the whole process. These gloves come basically with 2 pairs of gloves in a pack. Obviously the orange ones are to keep your sleeves clean as you put your hands inside the body cavity, and then a tighter pair, keep things nice and tight so that you can feel everything inside. You don't want to nick yourself with a knife, so these help you feel everything that you're doing as you're doing the process. So the first thing we're going to do is just get this deer on her back so that we can get to the rear end. What I like to do is kind of straddle the animal like this so that you can get full exposure to everything. And you're going to cut around the vents. This is a doe, and of course you can see that I'm cutting around both openings because we're going to end up pulling all of this out in one piece. Keep your feet out of the way, keep your hands out of the way. You want to work your knife inside this cavity as far as you can. All of this sits inside of a hole, basically, that is made of bone. So all of the vents are kind of sitting inside of that. And you want to hollow out as much of that opening as you possibly can so it all comes out in one nice big piece. So just take your time, work your way around it. There's no hurry. As a younger man, I always used to think it was neat to get a deer gutted out as quickly as you can. The older I got, the more I realized that's foolish. Just take your time. You don't want to poke a hole through the bladder or the paunch itself, because you're going to get contaminants all over your meat. So just take your time. Now, one other thing that I do like to do, I said you could do it with a small knife, but one thing I've learned over the years is that a nice longer bladed knife, just for this purpose, of cleaning out this cavity, comes in very handy because you can get quite a bit deeper inside the cavity. But again, be careful that you're not puncturing anything. Okay, so once you have that worked loose, and you probably won't get it all the way, you'll need to do a little bit more later. But after you get that accomplished, it's time to move into the main body cavity. So what I like to do is just open her up right here. Be careful. All you're hitting in here is meat. So you're just basically separating the 2 hind legs, but you don't want to go through any of this cavity yet. From here, I like to spin around and start working my way up through the stomach area. So this is a doe. One of the things I normally would do is just take the milk sac off completely. Now this is a dry doe, So you could cut right through it, but if it's not a dry doe, you're gonna cut through that and you're gonna have milk bleeding out, which is not really desirable. So just take this right off. So now you've got the skin, and what you want to do is work your way up basically to where the ribs begin. So again, just real slow, start a cut. You don't want to poke through any of this, this paunch. Nice and slow. Pull the skin away from the body, and if you can, you want to work your fingers up in here so that your knife stays on top of that skin and is only cutting skin. Again, be really careful that you don't cut through the stomach muscle and into the stomach. Kind of work it loose with your fingers so you can get underneath it. There we go. Now once you get that far, you want to cut through the stomach muscle, which is going to expose the rest of the internal organs, and that's obviously your goal, to get those out. So what I like to do is I slide my fingers up in here as far as I can and lift a little bit so that I can slide that knife along without actually poking into the stomach. You want to be careful so you can see the stomach is beginning to come out already on its own, and you want to protect that so that you don't poke a hole in it, because if you do, you're going to have stomach content all over the place and you're going to contaminate that meat. Now, it's not that the meat is ruined if you do that, but you need to get it someplace and get it cleaned out very, very quickly. But that stomach is pushing against my hand and keeping it away from my knife with my hand. There, now we're pretty much home free. We're to the ribs and we're past the stomach. Okay, so everything's exposed and starting to come out even on its own. So I like to take this and just kind of cut things back a little bit. So this is where I started. You can see I've got this cut out pretty much all the way from my initial cuts. Just a little bit more cutting and you can get this whole piece to come right out. A little bit of pulling, a little bit of tissue holding it in. There, everything that was right here is now out, and that's a lot of the main contaminants that you don't want to get on your deer. So from here, it's a matter of working this out. So what you want to do now, being very careful with your knife, is slide it up along the edge. And you're going to start just loosening all of this tissue inside, and again, being very careful that you don't cut into that stomach. We're going to get all the way up in here and we're going to cut open the diaphragm. The diaphragm, of course, holds the stomach content, everything in the stomach area away from the lungs, separates the two. So you want to cut that out, loosen it up as much as you can without, again, cutting into the stomach. Loosen that around there. So I'm just going around in a circle around the rib cage to cut that loose. Get as much of that free as you can. And then, before you even take the stomach out, reach in here as far as you can, loosen up the lungs and the heart, and you're gonna find the windpipe. You're gonna slide your knife in here without puncturing anything. Reach in as far as you can, pulling it toward you, and you're gonna cut that windpipe right off. Pull that knife out, get it out of your way, and then just grab that windpipe and pull. And most of this is gonna come out in one big piece. And then just take your knife again, and work this connective tissue till everything comes out nice and tidy. You can continue to cut the diaphragm loose. And all of this connective tissue. And there you have it. Everything in one big piece. So she's completely clean inside. There's blood in here, of course. You can trim some of this extra away, leave it for the coyotes, but otherwise she's nice and clean. Just need to drain the blood and your process is complete. My next step here is that I would take this animal home, I would get it hung up and get the hide off because it's warm out. I would get the hide off as quickly as I can. I personally like to hose them out with nice cold water. As long as you're gonna dry the animal off right away, there's nothing wrong with getting some water on it. But if it's gonna sit for a while, you don't wanna do that because water and moisture is where bacteria will grow. So we're gonna get her out of here, get her home, get the hide off, and start the meat processing to get her into the freezer. Before I started the gutting process, I was talking about wearing the gloves, and I promised you a quick little trick that I like to actually have the gloves to do when I'm in the field. And if you're somebody that likes to eat the heart or the liver, these are a great tool to have in the woods, because all you need to do is cut the membrane off of the heart just like this. You've got it completely exposed, and you just cut that connective tissue away on the heart. And when you're done, just take your arm, roll it right up, hands are clean, you got your heart in a nice clean bag.
That was great. Every hunter should know how to make quick work of field dressing and quartering your deer. Give it a try this year.